Haute Couture, the podcast by Chanel.
This year marks the 110th anniversary of Chanel Haute Couture. In 1915, Mademoiselle Chanel opened her fashion house in Biarritz and designed her first collection. 3 years later, she acquired 31 Rue Cambon and turned the premises into the epicenter of her creative work. And it's here, 110 years on, that Chanel's haute couture is still being made with patience and passion. In this episode, I'm joined by my guest, Carole Bouquet. The actress is a close friend and one of the faces of the house. Her history with Chanel is connected with that of haute couture.
On va faire un petit test.
Let's do a quick sound check. We'll do something practical to save time.
On optimise le temps.
All right.
Pour faire des tests.
To test the sound, can you tell me your name?
Votre nom.
Carole Bouquet.
Est-ce que vous pouvez
Can
me
you
dire
say haute couture several times?
plusieurs fois.
Haute Couture. Haute Couture, un podcast de Chanel.
Alors,
Haute Couture,
a
a podcast by Chanel.
Haute Couture, a podcast by Chanel.
It's around midday. I'm with Carole in the salon upstairs at Rue Cambon. Climbing up the famous steps, you pass in front of the mirror and find yourself in a vast space furnished with white sofas and Coromandel screen. Carole sits down opposite me and I ask her if she remembers her first visit to 31 Rue Cambon.
Je suis en train de chercher.
I'm just wondering, because actually before I came here, I had already done the advertising campaign. So in fact, I came here to try on the suit, the famous red suit.
For the number 5 ad campaign?
Yes, this was the famous suit that was made for me. And I tried it on here because it was made to measure. That was my first time here.
So it was a haute couture suit.
It was haute couture, made especially for me.
We are here in the salon at Rue Cambon. What were your first impression of Rue Cambon back in 85, 86? Did you know anything about it before you came?
Pas du tout.
No,
Pas du tout, pas la moindre
I didn't
idée.
have the slightest
Ah non, pas la
idea.
moindre idée. Et bien sûr,
And what made the
la chose
greatest
qui m'a le
impression on
plus
me
ébloui,
were the
c'était ces
mirrors
miroirs
over the stairs.
dans l'escalier.
I
où je me
immediately
suis dit
thought they're
immédiatement,
not just for the women going up
ça,
the
c'est pas
stairs.
pour que les femmes qui
They're
montent,
for her,
c'est
so
pour
she can be
qu'elle
upstairs
soit
and
à
still watch the
l'étage,
couture shows
comme les
as they're
défilés de
happening
couture
down
avaient lieu
here,
aussi à son époque,
because
qu'elle
she
puisse
can
voir
see it
tout
all
ce qui
in the
se
reflection.
passe en bas. Et elle avait la
She could
réflexion
also
donc, de
use it
tout.
for photographs,
Après, elle
of
pouvait s'en
course.
servir pour faire des photos.
But its
Mais,
main purpose was a
c'était
practical
utilitaire
one,
au
so
début,
that she could
c'est-à-dire ça lui
see
permettait de
everything
voir
that was happening
toute
in
la
the room
salle et
without
tous les
being
mannequins
there.
et tout ce qui se passait en bas sans y être.
Vous me parliez de
And
cet
there are also
escalier.
photos of
Ouais,
you at that
il y a des
time,
photos de
taken
vous aussi
in
de
Mademoiselle's
cet appartement de
apartment.
Mademoiselle.
How did
Oui.
it feel
Ça vous
to
fait
be
quel
in that
effet de rentrer dans cet
apartment?
appartement,
It's such a unique
particulier.
space.
C'est-à-dire que je savais qu'elle y vivait
Well,
pas. Je savais
ouais.
qu'elle
I
n'y
was
permet
aware
pas.
she didn't
Et par
live
contre,
there,
bien évidemment,
but even
elle
so,
avait
she had
totalement
decorated
décoré
it all herself,
Et
and it is
je le
beautiful.
trouve d'une beauté cet appartement.
It shows such
Et en même temps
intelligence.
d'une intelligence. C'est drôle
It's
comme
funny
elle a
how
fait
she
des
made
vêtements
such
très
simple,
simples, très
understated
sobres pour les
clothes,
femmes.
and yet when you
Et
look
en
at her
même temps,
jewelry
par
and the
contre, dans les
decor of her
bijoux
apartment,
et
it's
dans la
quite the
décoration de son
opposite.
appartement, c'est au contraire très chargé. Le lustre
That chandelier
dans le
in the
salon,
living room.
je pourrais le voler.
I could have
Elle-
stolen
parce
it.
Elle l'a fait faire.
She commissioned
Elle
it
a
herself,
rajouté
adding
elle-même
glass
des
apples
pommes, des
and
poires
pears.
en verre. Enfin, c'est une merveille.
Honestly,
Ce lustre,
I still
vraiment, vraiment,
dream
j'en
of
rêve
that
encore. Je peux
chandelier
presque vous le
today.
décrire. Oui, la
I can
poire
still
qui est
picture
légèrement
it,
rose, tout
with
ce qu'elle
its
a
slightly
rajouté,
pink pears and everything
dans
else
cet
she added.
appartement, pour moi, est d'une immense
It's
beauté.
all
Les
so
coromandels,
beautiful.
les-
The
tout est
Coromandel
beau.
screens,
Et c'est drôle parce que c'est
everything.
complètement extraverti. Je
And
dirais,
it's funny
comme
how
appartement,
extravagant
c'est
and expressive the
extrêmement
apartment is,
démonstratif, c'est
when the dresses she made were
extrêmement,
exactly the
et elle
opposite.
faisait le contraire dans les robes.
So here
Le
at
design
Rue
au
Cambon,
Rue
this
Cambon,
really
c'est
is the
le
birthplace
berceau
of
de
Chanel
la
haute couture.
Ouais.
En fait,
Gabrielle Chanel
a
made
fait de
haute
haute
couture
couture,
her whole
de la
life.
couture toute sa vie. Et
And
vous,
you
votre
also also have a long history with Chanel and with haute couture. Because as you mentioned, the first time you came here, you were haute couture. Was that something you were already familiar with?
No, not at all. It was just miraculous. I went to watch them working in the atelier and I was in awe. I had my own mannequin.
A dressmaker's bust?
Yes, a bust.
Totalement privilégié.
It was such a special place.
C'était pas un cocon.
And not at all insular.
Mais au fond,
I soon came to know everyone there.
Haute couture comes with a whole ritual, from the première d'atelier to the fittings, the bust, and having clothes made for you must feel... How would you describe it?
It's so rare, so...
rare, c'est tellement... c'est vraiment, s'il y a un mot qu'on peut employer...
There's one word that describes the feeling in its truest sense. It's luxurious. But in the most beautiful sense of the term. Because every detail matters. And if there are any problems, they'll fix them. They'll find a solution. They have hundreds of little tricks up their sleeves so that the clothing gives you the body shape you always dreamed of, which you just wouldn't have without the clothing. They pay such close attention. So we'd arrive in this sort of inner sanctum, although it was still bustling with activity. We'd go upstairs with Carl and his assistants. And I was free to go wherever I wished.
As the face of number 5, you were the embodiment of haute couture, singing that wetsuit, kissing a man and heading into the canyon in the famous Ridley Scott campaign, playing this seductive, confident woman. Was this a new identity for you at the time?
Very, very, very new. It was almost unthinkable for me. Because in my day-to-day life, I tend to wear a white shirt and black trousers. Because since I have to dress up for work and film and theater, I save that for special occasions, and the rest of the time I wear more or less the same uniform that I wore as a child.
Haute Couture, the podcast by Chanel.
You were saying that until that point you saw clothing as a kind of uniform, that ornamentation wasn't your thing.
No, but I do love Baroque jewelry. I love the jewelry she made, these Byzantine creations. But it's true, I like to wear clothes that are very simple and jewelry that's very Baroque, very eye-catching.
And the fact that Chanel Haute Couture is so pure and pared down, did that make it more comfortable for you? Did it match your own sense of style?
I've never worn something that I didn't like. Otherwise, I feel uncomfortable, affected, trapped. So I've always worn clothes that I like. And sometimes Carl would even adapt haute couture outfits to suit me, which was just extraordinary. Knowing my taste, he'd say, "Oh, Carol would prefer it like this." He would remove certain things, saying, "She won't like this bow or this." Sometimes he would also make costumes for my films, which were just gorgeous. I still have them at home. They're exquisite.
When you were on the jury at Cannes, he created 10 dresses for you. We have the photos here.
This is the second time I wore that dress, 20 years on. Here, I'm wearing it with a green belt, but when I first wore it, 20 or even 30 years before that, I had a golden belt and a golden band in my hair. This is during the festival where every day, every single day, I had a new couture dress to wear that evening. I still have them at home. The other day I lent one to a young woman who was going to the Cabourg festival. She looked divine. I was so happy. And off she went wearing a Chanel dress that was made 40 years ago. This is my first photo for number 5. Then Jacques Helleu and I spent 15 years working together for Chanel perfume.
And your first haute couture outfit?
My first haute couture, which I wore in the film by Michel Blanc.
Looking at all these Chanel haute couture dresses that you've worn at Cannes, you're often wearing quite a simple palette of colors, with lots of black and white, very pure and refined. How would you define it?
You know why? Because nothing else suits me. If you put me in a floral dress, I just disappear. The clothes that suit me best are simple and plain. And with Chanel, I could choose. But often costume designers would bring me things before a film shoot, covered in flowers and so on, and I'd tell them, there are some things I can't wear. They say, of course you can. But no, because I'll disappear. The clothes will swallow me up. So they have to be as simple as possible. Otherwise, I'm not myself.
Did you find Chanel's style suited you better? Do you prefer that simple kind of luxury?
I love it. I think it's the most elegant choice. I think this garment is absolutely timeless too. After all, it was used all over again, 40 years on.
This year marks the 110th anniversary of Chanel Haute Couture, and it's incredible how the house's style has endured. It has adapted, but never truly changed.
No, hardly at all. Because I've been working with them since I was 28. I'll re-wear the dresses, and at Cannes, I re-wore one that I'd worn in Too Beautiful for You by Bertrand Blier. I must have been around 35 at the time.
In a documentary a few years ago, you spoke about Gabrielle Chanel and you said, we have several things in common, including humor.
I don't know if I dare to say that I had a sense of humor, but I hope I do. She certainly did, but she was a lot more ferocious. But then, I don't have to run a fashion house. She had to assert and protect what she was doing, what elegance meant to her. And it's true, she created the suit so that women could dress well at the office. But if you look at the dresses from that time, they have this fluidity, softness, and elegance. Delphine Seyrig wore them. They're just incredibly delicate. And I like how grouchy she was.
Il me plaît. Il faut en même temps être
At the same time, she had to be an artist, and she was surrounded by painters, sculptors, and musicians, making all kinds of costumes for them, but she still had a house to run. And because she hated the idea of depending on men, her house simply had to turn a profit.
It's her independence and freedom you like. She was always in search of freedom, whether it was running her own business, founding a house, liberating women. She did it in all kinds of ways.
She set an example for women in so many ways, in the way she lived and worked. And you know, on certain films, I've had to wear corsets, and they're a prison. We had no freedom. If you liberate the body, you can liberate the spirit. So I'm deeply grateful to all those who have made that possible for us.
Right, because Gabrielle Chanel's creations, she only ever made haute couture, and her creations were more than clothes. They also embodied her ideas.
And that's what she wanted. She wanted women to look that way, to look free, to move freely. And if you can move freely, you can also think freely.
And in a way, haute couture is the apotheosis of that, in the sense that the clothing is made especially for you, for your own self. And following on from that, in the course of your career, is it fair to say that it took a while to adjust to that focus on self, having found fame so quickly? Because after the Buñuel film that you did, you had a lot of exposure. Perhaps too much. Did it take you a long time to think, all right, now I've made it?
Oh yes, it took time. The Buñuel film was my first ever role, and I was terrified. About 2 weeks earlier, someone had asked me, "What do you want to be in life?" And I told them, "An actress." I must have been 17 or 18. And then I went straight on to the Buñuel film and my life changed overnight. But what made it easier in terms of exposure? Yes, there was a huge amount of exposure. But in France at that time, it was the directors who gave interviews. When the film came out, I was 19, and not a single photo of me appeared anywhere in France. Then a year later, I went to New York, and that was completely different. Wherever I went, I was part of a group under the wing of Andy Warhol. And every night, I'd have dinner with people who became my friends. There were the journalists who had broken Watergate and directors, and everyone was saying, "Congratulations." I looked around wondering, who are they congratulating? And then I realized that it was me. Then everyone treated me like a princess, and I realized I had to go home, that I had other things to do that weren't in America. If I'd been able to speak English really well, perhaps I would have given it a try, but I wasn't really comfortable with it. Of course, I did James Bond, but that was the boys who chose it for me. I had already turned down one, then another came along when I was 22 or 23, and I soon found myself on set. Did I have fun? No, James Bonds aren't much fun. They're better now, but this was at a time when Bond girls were treated like birds of paradise. Now they have more important roles.
So there was Buñuel, then James Bond, and you said, on screen, I became the mistress or the deceived woman, as if directors were using me to settle their scores. Were these fantasies being projected onto you?
Il y a eu un imaginaire comme ça qui s'est projeté sur vous.
Oui, parce qu'au début, j'étais la Madone. Et puis après,
yes, at first I was the Madonna, and then they thought, what can we do with her? And they almost punished me because I was always being left by a man for another woman. That kept happening. I think now I have more freedom. I can play comedic roles or someone who is evil. But it's true, I could track the changes in society by the roles that directors were offering me. Then later, I was able to be more cruel, more manipulative, to be funny. The first comedy film that I did, I think it was Dead Tired with Michel Blanc.
Est-ce que c'est pas le film de Michel Blanc? Je crois que si, c'est vraiment, c'est Grosse Fatigue, vraiment. Ou d'ailleurs, on va à Cannes et la robe.
We took that to Cannes too, and there's a red Chanel dress in the film. In fact, many Chanel costumes.
Il y a d'ailleurs le tailleur rouge quand j'arrive et que je suis de la police.
When I arrive with the police, I'm wearing the red Chanel suit, and there's a gorgeous dress too, which I donated to the Cinémathèque.
Another filmmaker who you often mention is Werner Schröter.
Werner Schröter.
Werner Schröter. That was the first time I started to gain a little bit of confidence. Because I could see in the faces of the crew, especially the cinematographer or indeed the sound man, I could see from their reaction that it was working.
You've said that Werner Schröter embroidered his films, which is also very haute couture. What do you mean by embroidering?
I mean that even though there was a script, he stitched them together one day at a time in order to suit the actresses. He only worked with actresses whom he liked on a personal level, so it was all completely tailored to us.
Do you think there is an overlap between artisanal work and filmmaking?
Absolutely. In fact, I wish there was a little more of it nowadays. The problem is you have less and less time unless it's a really big film. And if I hadn't said that night, I want to be an actress, I would have wanted to design sets or light films. Honestly, a good costume is so important. As long as the costume and the lighting are good, it's almost impossible to act badly. There's nothing left for you to do.
Haute Couture, the podcast by Chanel.
I was talking about the long time scales of haute couture, of your relationships with Chanel and with the public for 30, 40 years now. Is there anything that time has taught you? The passing of time?
Est-ce qu'il m'apprend quelque chose?
Has it taught me anything? Honestly, I'm not sure. Perhaps the only thing I've learned is patience. I don't have much of it, but as you grow older, you can't help but learn to be patient and allow time to pass. There's some things you just can't fight, over which you have no power at all. So when you're 20, you think you can do everything. Then at my age, you know full well that that isn't the case. But that's okay.
You've also said that now the true luxury for you is still being able to work.
Oh, yes. If I don't work, I wither away. It kills me. I cannot not work. What's more, I was raised by a man, not by a woman who didn't work and stayed at home, like my mother's generation. No, I was raised by a man. He would spend a couple of minutes in the bathroom. That's how I learned to dress. He'd spend 3 minutes in the bathroom and go to work. So I had no idea what it was like to get myself all dressed up.
It wasn't easy to pass on that feminine side.
I only learned that through cinema. That's how it happened. Without that.
And fashion?
And fashion. I learned it from the cinema and Chanel. To be a woman, I mean, it was cinema and Chanel that taught me how to be a woman, not my childhood.
You've said that for many years, the film industry didn't know what to do with you.
It's true.
Recently, you've appeared in Therapy, playing a psychoanalyst. What do you want to do next?
A little bit of everything. Not necessarily films for a wide audience. I'd rather enjoy working with directors I like. When I was young, I didn't realize how much I loved doing that. I was timid, nervous, and being so young, I wanted to try other things too. But now, with the passing of time, it's become almost essential to me.
And how do you fuel your creativity? Because haute couture is also a source of endless creativity.
Through paintings, music, sculpture. It might be Bernini at Villa Borghese or Gentileschi, who for once has a wonderful exhibition at the Jacques Marandré. Or Caravaggio, but also contemporary painting. I need to go to the opera, the theater, the cinema, or cooking for my friends in Italy.
Do you think luxury and secrecy go hand in hand?
Possibly. I'd never thought of it like that, but it's true that it's about not giving too much away. You don't put everything on show. So yes, there's something fundamentally discreet about luxury and haute couture, which takes hours and hours, hundreds of hours of work, fitting and preparation.
Do you ever think about that when you're wearing the clothes, about all the hands that made it?
Yes, because they're with me up to the very last moment. Even here, doing an interview with you or at Cannes, sometimes they restitch the clothes while I'm wearing them just before I walk out. There really is such an incredible amount of craftsmanship, delicacy, and care going into the work right up to the very last moment.
So that's part of the process.
Oh, yes. And I love them. I think they're immensely talented. I could spend hours and hours in the atelier watching them work.
And the precision of working by hand?
Yes. I find it astonishing because that's not a skill that I have at all.
Haute couture is about making something yours. Is that important to you?
I don't know if it's important but it's certainly very moving. In terms of making things mine, I started with houses, for instance, that were totally empty because I had no family history. So at home, I had 2 sofas, suitcases for tables, really the bare minimum for a large space like that. Now, there are many more objects that I'm very attached to, things that I've chosen myself and have kept throughout my life. Just a few months ago, I moved, and I kept all my wardrobe. Perhaps that's the most moving thing about it, that I can look around my home and see the story of my life.
Carole Bouquet, thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you. Now I have to go and rehearse in Nice.